What's up? I'm Jeff Haynes from Tech Bargains, and this is the video review of the Apple iPad mini. Although Apple tried to not acknowledge the rise of the 7-inch tablet market, it nonetheless decided to get into the competition with the iPad mini. But Apple's biggest challenge is not in asserting its tablet dominance, but in convincing consumers that it's actually worth paying the high premium for the small device that's $130 more than comparable slates. Is the Apple iPad mini worth the price? Let's put it through its paces. The iPad mini is powered by a 1 GHz dual-core A5 processor with 512 MB of RAM. It comes in either 16, 32, or 64 GB of internal storage, and comes with both a 5-megapixel iSight rear-facing camera and a 1.2 megapixel FaceTime HD front-facing camera. Content is displayed on a 7.9-inch LED backlit multi-touch IPS display with a native resolution of 1024 by 768 at 163 pixels per inch. Rounding out the device are Bluetooth 4.0 and full Wi-Fi support, with some models also coming with 4G cellular plans. Now, Apple products cost much more than other devices on the market, which frequently is part of paying for the branding of Apple itself. But paying for the Apple tax also provides a benefit of high-quality built devices. Simply holding and using the device gives you a sense of how well made this product is, which helps you feel like the purchase is worthwhile. Another strength of the iPad mini is in its one-handed operation, which is a frequent advantage of 7-inch devices. If you hold regular-sized iPads in one hand for a while, your arm will start to tire because of its weight. That isn't the case with the iPad mini, which you can hold in one hand for a very long time. Its thickness and size makes it perfect for reading ebooks, magazines, or browsing. Considering that the iPad mini had been rumored to exist for quite some time, it's interesting to note that it's essentially an iPad 2 that's been shrunk to a smaller form factor. The 1 GHz dual-core A5 processor still operates quite well, and while it may be a little slower to load apps than a 3rd or 4th generation iPad, the difference in speed is negligible, especially when it comes to gaming. There may be less pixels to push on the display than its big brother, but it still gets the job done in the visual department. Of course, the iPad mini holds up the traditional standard of the iPad with excellent battery life, boasting 10 hours on a single charge. While that will depend based on the apps being run and what you're doing, most users can pull off a couple of days of runtime with moderate use of the iPad mini. Finally, let's face it, if you've invested any amount of time or money in the iOS arena because of an iPad, iPhone, or iPod Touch, it's easier to potentially justify getting an iPad mini. iOS 6 is just as slick and responsive on the mini as it is on your other devices. It's easy to use, and while it's not as customizable as Android, it's definitely not as fragmented as the competing operating system either. Of course, that brings us to the downsides of the mini. The first one that stands out is the lack of a Retina display, which Apple has been making a big deal about with a lot of its products. While Apple likes to say that you won't be able to make out individual pixels viewing Retina devices from a normal distance, the iPad mini definitely doesn't qualify. Text isn't as sharp as displays with more densely packed pixels, and the mini has the second lowest pixel per inch count of current iDevices. It may be above the iPad 2's 132 pixels per inch, but the mini's 163 lags behind the 3rd and 4th gen's 264 and iPhone 5's 326 pixel per inch count. Another small but notable exception is the exclusion of a panorama mode. While the mini's cameras are fine for a tablet, it's somewhat disappointing that the rear-facing iSight camera lacks some features like HDR panorama modes. Finally, and most obviously, is the price of the iPad mini itself. Although it may be the least expensive iPad ever, it's one of the most expensive 7-inch devices ever as well. The tablet starts at $329 for a 16GB version that's Wi-Fi capable only. If you decide to max out your options and add a cell plan for always-on connectivity, you're looking at $649 at least, which is Ultrabook territory. The Apple iPad mini is an excellent device that's fast and responsive in use, feels like a premium product, and can be used with one hand for hours at a time. Consumers that aren't interested in a larger tablet or haven't bought an iPad should seriously consider getting their hands on an iPad mini, but they should also take that with a grain of salt. It comes with last generation hardware as well as some left out features which will obviously be addressed in the next iteration of the iPad mini itself. But it's also not a Nexus 7 or a Kindle Fire killer simply by virtue of its high price tag alone. Apple could have destroyed its competition if it priced the mini at a lower point, but the heightened premium price leaves open a lot of debate as to what the best 7-inch tablet on the market happens to be. As a result, we decided to give the Apple iPad mini a 4 out of 5. For the latest coupons and deals on devices like the Apple iPad mini, be sure to go to techbargains.com/Apple. To enter our monthly giveaway, make sure you always check out techbargains.com/YouTube. And to watch our video unboxings, video reviews, and exclusive video features, be sure to go to techbargains.com/videos.